have no mercy for those that come to disrupt the restoration of this struggle. We don't negotiate with anyone. We will never do that. Because when you do things like that, you encourage the same thing to be inside the government, and they will continue to do what they are doing. They said, added that sex.
Welcome, fellow Biafrans, lovers of freedom across the world. I welcome you to this amazing platform. Thank you so much for joining me on today's program, and I wish you a very happy new year. Finally, we are now in the year 2025, and as we proceed in the year 2025, we must not forget that we have a lot of responsibilities. Our responsibility in this platform is to give you information and make sure that you have an update on what is going on in Biafra land, more especially things that has to do with the restoration of independent state of Biafra. Today, I am going to share with you a very important video. Please pay attention to this video. In all the information that we see here, you are going to see that they have started again a new deceit to distract us from the restoration of independent state of Biafra. We must not be distracted. It is either Biafra or nothing. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu said it to us, and he has not changed his mind. If anybody tries to insinuate that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu have changed, that is a lie. Watch this video from beginning to the end. You will understand that the enemies will never give up. And those of us who are focusing on the restoration of Biafra, we must not give up. Do not get distracted, regardless what you hear or what you see. Always remember that it is Biafran first. All eyes must be on the rising sun. Every eye must be on the rising sun. Do not allow yourself to be carried away with things that are happening around you. The restoration of independent state of Biafra is one thing that we must focus on. We have the United States of Biafra now. Let's watch.
In the next 1 hour or so, we'll be having an exclusive interview, talking to one of Nigeria's elder statesmen, Professor Ihechukwu Mmadubuike Omemma Ndi Isuochi, who will also help us to untie some of the puzzles that face us as a people. Now, Professor Ihechukwu Mmadubuike is a renowned academic, journalist, author, and politician who was a founding member of Ohaneze Igbo. Now, he served as a member in Imo State House of Assembly between 1979 and 1983. He was appointed Federal Minister of Education, and he served between 1979 and 1981. He was Commissioner for Finance in Imo State, 1981 to 1983. As a journalist, he was editor of the Journal of Black Studies. He also, and that was between 1973 and 1977, he was executive director and chairman, editorial board of Champion Newspapers Limited. He was a member of the Nigerian People's Party, NPP, between 1979 and 1983. And one will wonder, as a member of the NPP, how come he served as a minister in an NPN government? Oh, well, we are going to unravel all of that. Professor Ihechukwu holds the traditional titles of Onunekuro Hawan of Isuochi, Omemma One of Unato, Osoeze One of Okigwe, and he has many book titles to his name, and the latest being Isuochi, 9 Jewels on the Hills. Professor Ihechukwu Mmadubuike, good afternoon, sir, and welcome to this interview.
Good afternoon, Chukuma. How are you?
I'm very well, sir. Good to have you. Good to have you. Good to see you after a very long time.
Yes, I hope I still remember you when I see you.
Okay, you will, sir. You will. So, now let's kick into it, sir. I would like to ask you. You will turn 81 in July 2025, and just last year, at the age of 80, you were
82, really. 82,
okay, 82, really. Okay, I'm sorry for that mix-up. 82, really, and yeah. That it makes it more like the question I want to ask. At the age of 81, you were able to author a book and launch it last year. Where did that energy come from? Can you just help us understand? Where is that energy coming from?
Thank you very much. Once you have a gift for something and you develop that gift, it never runs away from you. And I think I didn't develop a new energy at all. I'm just finishing a manuscript. which I submitted to a publisher yesterday or 2 days ago. And that manuscript has to do with whether Nigeria is a failing state, a failed state, or a weak state.
Okay.
Because of a prediction by a think tank in America that by 2030, miserable 5-6 years away, Nigeria may crumble as a state. So I just finished about the 250-page manuscript, which I started about 3 years ago. Now, coming to the book I launched, or I presented to Isoch people, to the public, on the 4th of January this year. It's a labor of love. I started writing it about 10-15 years ago and got it published around 2018. But I kept it in the cooler. I didn't present it publicly then. So where did I find the energy? I was still in my 70s when I started writing.
Okay. Quite
instructive.
Okay, quite yes. Instructive. Quite instructive. Prof, I like the fact that you asked the question. Very curious, very pertinent question, like what is Nigeria a failed state? Is Nigeria a failing state? And what is our fragile state index and all of that? I remember it was the Council for Foreign Relations, CFR, which is a security think tank in the United States that made that prediction. But we'll get into all of that in the course of the show. Now, let me start by asking you, Prof, how come you were, let's get into all of it now, you were a member of the NPP, Nigerian People's Party, that had Imo State and the Anambra State and Plateau State between 1979 and 1983. How come you served as Minister for Education under an NPN government led by Alhaji Shehu Shagari? What happened? How did you become a member of that cabinet? Can you help us? Can you walk us through, what led to your appointment as a Minister of Education in that government?
I contested election into the Imo House of Assembly when I came back into this country. I resigned my lectureship at Alvanito College of Education. For 1 year, I campaigned vigorously in Okigwe, and Isuochi, which was my constituency. I won my election under the NPP. And after that, I joined the campaign team of Nnamdi Azikiwe, who was our presidential candidate in that election. And with the likes of Arubiko Okafor and others, we traversed the length and breadth of Nigeria campaigning for him. He didn't win that election. The NPN did also not win outrightly that election. It was more or less a minority government, and the NPN needed a partnership with another party to be able to form a robust government. And so we entered into accord with NPN, a number of agreements, what to do and what not to do. We gave them the ladder and they climbed over and formed a government. Took people from NPP, took people from NPN. Shagari remained the president. And so that's what happened. It was through that accord that I was nominated and then confirmed as a Minister of Education.
Okay.
In 1979. That's what happened.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Because a lot of people, if not for this background information that you have given, a lot of people have been asking, does it look like what Nyesom Wike is doing with the PDP and APC? Is it strange? Because they also said that, look, Professor Ihechukwu Madubike was a member of the MPP and he served in an NPN government. So I think I'm happy that you have cleared it out, and it doesn't look like as if it's something strange. Do you have anything to say about that? Does it look like what Wike is doing now is what happened to you as a member of the MPP serving in NPN?
No, we are two different breeds, two different categories of people, and the situation It's completely different from what Wike and Co are doing. We did not undermine our party in any way. Zik was what was known as the beautiful bride, being wooed both by the NPN and the UPN. And if Zik had decided to join UPN to form a government, NPP would have still been in government. But he felt at that time that for two southern parties to merge from a government, the North will feel betrayed with their population. So it was an act of nationalism to keep Nigeria together that led to that marriage of convenience.
Okay, thanks very much, Prof. Now, Prof, okay, you wanted to say something, sir?
Yeah, and I say it's a political marriage of convenience.
Okay, political marriage of convenience. You will say, okay,
That's
for the
right.
interest of, for Nigeria's unity. Okay, I understand all of that. Now, Prof, as serving as a Minister of Education, is there any fond memory you have, of anything that, regarding your stint as a Minister for Education in Nigeria? Is there anything spectacular that came out of your service, to Nigeria as Minister for Education?
Yes, many things.
Okay.
First of all, when I was Minister of Education, Cabinet rank, I had two other ministers of state, one from the west, one from the north. The tripod situation was very, very much in place at that time. But I was the minister that went to cabinet to present issues of relevant to education and so on and so forth. When I was Minister of Education, we succeeded a military regime, the Obasanjo regime. And they had a number of things on ground which they didn't want us to tamper with. For instance, there were 13 universities in the country at that time. And they felt that we shouldn't talk about new universities. I came from a background, a democratic background, where I had taught in two different universities in the United States of America before I came back home. And here I was, Minister of Education, having 13 universities that were fitfully performing. The first university I taught in the United States of America was State University of New York in Buffalo. Okay, it had over 38,000 students on one campus. And after graduating and teaching there for a while, I moved to Ohio State University, which had over 50,000 students on one campus. Nigeria had 13 universities, okay, with less than 10,000 students in all, with a population of over 70 million at that time. I felt this was not good enough. And none of those universities was science-based. So I went to council, convinced the council that we needed a change. We needed a university that would operate under a presidential system of government, which was what was operating then in Nigeria. We had a presidency for the first time of that nature. And I said I needed more universities in Nigeria, and that these universities would be set up in states that had none. We had 19 state structure at that time. And that these universities would be universities of science and technology. There was none. Special oriented universities, including universities of agriculture, including also Open University. I canvassed, not on partisan basis, but on a nationalistic basis. Besides, at that time, we had just started JAM, this Joint Admission Matriculation Board. And many candidates who applied were not admitted because of the obnoxious carrying capacity of these universities. I changed all that. Council accepted my proposition, and we decided to set up specialist universities, universities of science and technology in the states that had none. And one of them was Imo State. Another was Gongola State, Benue State, Bauchi State, Niger, and so on and so forth. That's the origin of these universities of science and technology. Spectacular. And we appointed. We didn't have much money to start 7 of them at the same time. We graduated them. Started 3 in 1980, beginning with Igbo, University of Science and Technology, which we now call FUTO. Started another one in Bauchi, started another one in Gongola, started another one in Makodi, which was agriculture based. So that's one.
Okay.
There was nothing like that before then. But we went ahead to do another thing and make sure that the private sector, remember that the military had banned the participation of private sector in education, especially the religious bodies. And I said that was wrong. The university I went to was a public university. And I made sure that the private sector came into education, and that's how private universities started. There was no private university before I became Minister of Education. All right? Now check it out.
Good.
And I went ahead to start the Open University of Nigeria. I set up the committee with Adela Fibo and Professor Joe and another person from the north as members. We were always inclusive. Didn't leave any part of this country in that part. Check your records. So we started the Open University. Some of the materials with which they started here in Abuja are still present in my library in Isuch, if you go there. If these steps are not spectacular in education, tell me what is.
Okay, well, Prof, quite spectacular. I think that's a lot. That's a lot. You did quite well in my own personal assessment. And I know that a lot of Nigerians will agree with me that you did well. Now, but there's something that has run through your discourse, and it is the issue of Nigeria's unity and inclusivity. Look at how you said you had 2 ministers of state, one from the west and one from the north. You also talked about the committee, you had Adela Fibo, Professor Adela Fibo, you had one Professor Ojo, and another one from the north. Talk about inclusivity. Prof, how much of that inclusivity have we retained in our national life, in our politics, and how much of that have we lost in trying to build a nation called Nigeria?
A nation, our founding fathers did not make a mistake by building Nigeria on a tripod based on population. The Igbos, the Yorubas, and the North, they constitute 75%, if not more, of the population of this country. We also make sure, following the Williams Commission, that the minorities were included. That was why setting up the universities of science and technology, we did not forget the minorities. And we went to Makodi to set up the University of Agriculture. Okay? And the first chancellor came from Anambra, again, to emphasize that unity. All right? So a federation that is not balanced cannot work. And that is why we have continuously been crumbling down to failure. When I was minister, I could travel from Port Harcourt to Lagos with less than 100 naira. The naira was stronger in 1980 than the dollar. That's a fact. It has a lot to do with inclusivity. This idea of one size fits all cannot work. It doesn't work. When we became independent in 1960, I remember that at the age of 18, I went through a leadership training course. By that time, we used to go to Cameroon for what we call man of war day course. For my own man of war day, I did it in Jos, right? Because by that time, Cameroon had exited from Nigeria, so we had to do it in Nigeria. By the age of 18, I went to man of war day course, and I met Nigerians from all parts of the country, from the north, from the west, and from the military. We all came together to discuss Nigeria. I represented my group in a number of incidents, and competitions that took place in the school called Gindiri Secondary School. That's where we were lodged. Those things have disappeared. And one would wonder why the military intervened when they did. They had the reason to do. Things were lost then. Because a philosophy that I must take everything and that there are people who should exclude from governance.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Prof. Before we get into the state of the nation, because we have quite a lot to talk about the state of the nation, something happened in your career. I'd like to ask you, why were you able to descend? I understand that after serving as minister, you went back to Imo State to serve as commissioner. What informed that decision?
Now, remember that before I went to Lagos, I was a commissioner in Mbakwe's government.
Okay.
And remember that I won election to represent Nochi in the then Imo House of Assembly. We were the first set. So I had an address. It's very important. I had an address. I could go back as a member of the House. I could go back as a commissioner. Or I could go back to school, which is my first love, education, to teach. And which I did even after my second tenure as Minister of Health. So it's important when you go into politics to not take politics as a career. I didn't take politics as a career because I had a career already.
Okay.
Okay,
Prof, I like the fact that you talked about having an address, more like a fallback, something that you can always fall back on. You mentioned serving as Minister of Health, which I recall you serving as a Minister of Health under the Abacha regime. Prof, as a Democrat, why did you accept to serve in a military regime?
Very interesting. Well, now remember that when Abacha came in, he called a constitutional conference. All right?
Good.
To reset Nigeria. I was a member of that constitutional conference. Okay? People like the former Vice President of Nigeria, people like Ojukwu, people like many governors, they were members of that conference. And the objective was to reset Nigeria, to form a constitution that will be inclusive, that will address the various weak points of Nigeria. We did that, and I was a member. At the end of it all, we drafted a constitution, which we handed over to Abacha. And some of us members of that constitutional conference were appointed ministers. We said that to be appointed ministers, if possible, to have what's it called, diarchy, to humanize the military. And I was one of those who appointed.
Okay, Prof.
It was a patriotic duty.
Patriotism. I get all of that. Prof, is there anything you can remember that you did as a Minister of Health that impacted the life of the average Nigerian? Anything in particular?
Yes.
Okay.
I made it possible to implement the National Health Insurance Policy, which has become an act of Parliament today. For the first time, it was publicly presented, and Abacha, of all people, came and inaugurated it. Okay, that's number one, because it's still, that's the nearest thing that the people will get. Then I made it possible to set up this, help to set up this Abuja National Hospital, working closely with Mrs. Maria Abacha, whose pet project it was. Okay, we did that. I also transformed some national some regional hospitals into federal institutions, like Owerri. Owerri was a general hospital. Okay, I made it a federal medical center. The one in Imo State, you know. I did other things. We increased the vaccination procedures in the country. We increased the health statistics. I can't remember all of them.
Okay. Okay.
These are some of the steps.
Prof, that's quite awesome. That's quite awesome. I must admit. Now, Prof, let's get into the state of the nation. How do you assess the current administration in terms of delivery of promises made to the people? You know, especially with the current rate of economic decline and poverty, it's predicted that by June this year, 133 million people in Nigeria will be facing acute poverty and hunger. In fact, acute hunger. As at last year, we had 135 million Nigerians, you know, multidimensionally poor. How do you assess the ability of this administration in terms of having to impact positively on the people?
Well, to be frank with you, this administration has not seriously addressed the poverty challenge, nor the insecurity challenge. There is a relationship between insecurity and poverty everywhere, and these two factors lead to state failure. If they don't lead to state failure, they lead to government failure. If they don't lead to government failure, they lead to leadership failure. And none of these failures, none, can lead to sustainable development. So something has to give, something has to be done. And now you are talking about 133 additional million people getting into the poverty level, to the poverty pit. Is it any wonder that people like, some people have said that Nigeria is the worst place to live in? Bill Gates says so. The present American president called us a shithole country. And in all his reckonings, he has not made any reference to Africa, talk less to Nigeria. So it's something to be worried about. We need to do something as soon as possible. Not play. Rhetoric is different from reality. Okay? Emilio Carr, whatever you call it, it's my turn. It's not bad if it's your turn. But if your turn makes other people's turn not to be visible or viable in the near future, then your turn is not good enough. I don't condemn self-love. I don't condemn self-love or self-interest. Because self-love is better than self-negligence. And when you are loving yourself, you neglect part of yourself, which is part of the unity of Nigeria, then you are not moving forward. You cannot move forward when you are neutral. No vehicle moves forward when it is neutral.
Okay.
You must drive, and when you drive, you must drive the whole vehicle. You don't drive a part of it.
Okay. Prof, let's get into, let's localize this discussion now. Prof, what do you think is responsible for the spate of insecurity in the Southeast? And do you think that this government or previous governments have done enough to arrest the gradual descent of the Southeast into a place that is more like enveloped by insecurity of all forms, kidnapping, farmer header clash, unknown gunmen, and all of that? What do you think is responsible? And do you think this government and previous ones have done enough to arrest it?
Well, what is responsible is failure of leadership, and I've said that.
Okay.
And if you can't say that Nigeria has failed as a state, you cannot say that governments have succeeded either. Because if one part of your body is sick, it affects the other parts effectively. If you are blind, you cannot see totally well with the other one eye. And an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. That's part of the problem. We fought a war which they called civil, which some of us call uncivil. A war that was fought because of what was happening in a part of this country, the Operation Wait here, and because of the decision of a certain part of this country to control all the dividends of democracy. A certain group of people brought up and fought against it. The civil war ended, and we said, no victor, no vanquished. And we have made exclusion a part of governance since then, since the end of that war. All the agreements in Aburi and the rest of them, and even leaving Aburi alone, all the agreements that came up, all the statements that came up by the leadership of this country, military leadership of this country, to rehabilitate the Southeast. Not how you apply. We have the 5-state structure when others have 6, 7. And conscience should let us know, apart from politics, should let us know that when you deny people their right, they have to fight. As human beings, human right is foundational, is also constitutive, as well as causative. Southeast has been pushed to a corner where they have to look for all means humanly possible and rightful to defend their rights. That brings us to the issue of Nnamdi Kanu.
Good. I was coming to that, Prof. I like the fact that you met me on the road.
Will every right-thinking person should know that he should not be going this way, and that he's a symbol representing a people, no matter how small, tiny. He's a conscientious objector. He has no reason to be in prison. Because his being in prison they have not proved that he's a terrorist. Those who are terrorizing the country are all over the place. The Sahel region, the northern region, and so on and so forth. But this young man, who is a symbol of injustice, a symbol of a people fighting for their rights, should be liberated.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Guarantee the elders and guarantee that when he comes out, we will speak to him. Part of the insurrection, part of the problems in the Southeast will be resolved.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. I like the fact that you also touched on an area I was coming to.
Thank you so much for watching the program. I appreciate you for your patience to watch from beginning to end. I hope you have learned a lot from this very program that I just played, this video. Please like and share the video. Share to all platforms. After sharing the video, now you can go to the comment section and put down your comments. Whatever suggestions, contributions you have to make, what you think about the video I just played, go to the comment section and put your comment. I will go to the comment section, and I bet you I am learning a lot from there, and you can equally learn from there. Let us share our experience on that comment section. Thank you so much, and stay blessed. Don't forget to share, and we continue to bless you as you share. Biafra government, peace, progress, unity, and equity. We move airborne.